I stepped into the thick jungle, chasing a rumor, a truck swallowed by time. Through vines and wet leaves, the shape appeared, an old Ford F-150 Raptor, barely breathing under rust. Moss clung to every seam, mud packed the creases. Whatever the factory color was, it was completely buried. I cleared the area first, cutting brush, pulling branches, scraping leaves off the hood line. I moved slowly, but with purpose, checking where metal still felt solid. This wasn't a wash and shine story. It was a recovery mission, and the truck looked like nature had claimed it for decades. Before any pulling, I inspected toe points and the frame edges. One bad hook point could tear thin rusted metal like paper. I tested resistance by nudging and rocking the body, listening for creaks and cracks. Everything was damp, heavy, and stubborn, like the ground itself refused to let go. I wrapped straps carefully, tightened ratchets, and kept the pull angle low to avoid snapping parts. The first movement was the hardest. Tires sunk, mud holding tight. When it finally shifted, rust flakes fell like dry bark. The truck didn't wake up. It simply surrendered, 1 inch at a time. I dragged it out into clearer ground, then onto a safer path. The exterior was still a solid wall of corrosion, thick rust, dirt crust, and moss stains. No glossy panel, no clean paint. Just rough surfaces and dull metal tones. This was the true starting line, not the finish. Back home, the driveway became my outdoor workshop. I positioned tools where they could stay consistent. Buckets, brushes, hoses, trays for bolts. I wanted a logical flow, not chaos. The truck sat there like a giant rust statue, waiting for the first real confrontation, cleaning. The first spray of degreaser hit the body and ran brown instantly. I scrubbed with stiff brushes, peeled away mud layers, and rinsed again. The top grime came off, but underneath was still ugly, patchy, stained, and dead matte. The original white remained fully hidden under corrosion. I moved corner by corner, chasing seams and edges where dirt loved to hide. Each scrub released more rust dust and plant debris. Nothing looked restored yet. It looked exposed, like the truck was finally showing its wounds. That's what early progress really is, revealing problems, not hiding them. With the surface stripped of loose filth, I began disassembly. Fasteners went into labeled bags, small parts into trays. I removed what blocked access and what could be cleaned separately. If something came off, it stayed off until the right reassembly moment. No magic jumps, just honest continuity. Rust repair started with hard truth. Some edges were too thin to save. I wire brushed, scraped, and ground until stable metal appeared. The clean spots were not shiny. They were scuffed, dull, and pitted. That's normal. Bare metal after rust removal is never glamorous. It's simply workable. I shaped damaged areas, trimmed rotten sections, and prepared for patching and filler. Body filler went on in thin, controlled layers, then sanding, then more sanding. The goal wasn't perfection in one pass. The goal was accurate shape. Every recheck showed new highs and lows to correct. Primer followed to unify the chaos. Gray primer turned patchwork surfaces into one readable field. But primer is not paint. It stayed matte, showing sanding marks and contours. I looked for ripples, pinholes, and edges that needed refinement. The truck still had heavy rust elsewhere. No full clean look yet.
While bodywork cured, I shifted to mechanical progress. Up on a jack and stand, I opened the front corner and laid parts on cardboard. Degreaser broke the black grime into dripping runoff. Brushes and rags revealed dull, stained metal beneath. Still matte, still imperfect, just clean enough to rebuild.
I attacked the knuckle and hardware with a wire wheel. Rust scales snapped off in crunchy sheets. Underneath, the casting texture stayed rough, with pitting that told the story of age. I wasn't chasing showroom shine. I was chasing stable, sealed surfaces that could survive real driving.
Primer went on the cleaned component, then a durable matte top coat for protection. The finish was uniform, not glossy. It looked ready for work, not for display. That's how mechanical parts should look: functional, sealed, and consistent, without pretending they are brand new.
Reassembly began with alignment, seating the knuckle onto the lower ball joint, then snugging the nut correctly. I moved up to the upper joint and torqued it until the wrench clicked. Every connection mattered. One sloppy step here becomes a vibration, a pull, or a dangerous failure later. Next came the axle. I aligned splines, rotated slightly, and slid it into the hub with controlled pressure. I watched the boot to make sure it didn't twist. This was precision work in a dirty environment. Hands gritty, tools dusty, and metal still wearing corrosion stains around the edges. I hand-threaded the axle nut first to protect the threads. Then I used the impact only in short bursts to seat it, never to finish it. Final torque came with a torque wrench, followed by staking to lock it in place. That small step prevents future loosening and keeps everything safe. Brakes came next. Rotor seated against the hub, caliper guided back into position, bolts tightened evenly. Then bleeding. Clear hose, catch bottle, careful open and close cycles. Tiny bubbles pulsed through the line and disappeared. The moment the fluid ran clean, the system felt alive again. With the corner rebuilt, I mounted the wheel, snugged lugs in a star pattern, lowered the truck, and torqued to final spec. Click by click, each lug locked in. The wheel was dusty, not pretty, but secure. Mechanically, the truck was closer to rolling as a real machine. Now, paint prep demanded discipline. I created a controlled outdoor spray zone, plastic sheeting, drop cloths, tight masking lines. Anything that could contaminate paint got moved back. This wasn't about speed, it was about cleanliness, edges, and predictable airflow, even in a simple driveway setup. Wet sanding flattened the final primer. Water beaded, gray slurry formed, and texture smoothed out. The panel stayed matte, but it became even and ready. This stage is quiet satisfaction. The surface begins to feel correct under your hand, even before color ever appears. I wiped with wax and grease remover, let it flash, then used a tack cloth to lift invisible dust. The panel looked clean but still unfinished. No shine, no reflections, just a perfect base for color. Nearby areas remained dull and corroded, reminding us the transformation was still incomplete. The first bright white base coat pass went down softly. Coverage built, but it stayed matte and semi-opaque at first. This wasn't the factory paint returning, it was new color laid over repaired surfaces. The old factory white remained hidden under years of corrosion. What you see now is progress. A second base coat pass improved opacity and consistency. I kept overlap steady, distance consistent, and edges controlled near masking lines. The white became more uniform, but still not glossy. This is the key truth in repainting. The shine doesn't come from base coat, it comes later. Clear coat was the real reveal. As the wet edge moved, reflections appeared and deepened. The gloss looked alive, but only on the cleared panel. Beyond the masking, other surfaces stayed matte, patchy, or rusted. The contrast made the story believable, panel by panel, not instant perfection. A second clear coat pass added depth and flow. I watched for runs, kept speed steady, and maintained a wet edge. The fender now carried smooth reflections. But I didn't pretend the whole truck was finished in one scene. Other areas still needed the same long workflow to match. Unmasking was a careful moment. Tape pulled back at a low angle. Plastic folded away without touching fresh clear. A crisp line appeared, clean, white, and glossy. I inspected for dust nibs and edge peel. It's not about luck. It's about prep, control, and patience. After repeating the same prep and paint sequence across the rest of the body, the truck finally became uniform. Bright white, consistent clear coat, and stable reflections. That earlier rust horror was gone, replaced by a coherent finish. Not factory paint revived, new paint earned, step by step. The final wash sealed the story. Foam blanketed the truck, runoff streamed across the glossy panels, and the driveway filled with clean reflections. Then a short test drive. Gentle steering input, light brake check, a calm roll over a small bump. Smooth response meant it was roadworthy again.